Hello guys, and welcome back to the Musings&Review channel. It's Maverick, and today we're going to be continuing our watch of Vinland Saga with episode 2. So hopefully I can catch up before the next episode releases this weekend, right? So anyways, last episode, really I feel like I don't need to repeat myself too much more. Just go watch it if you haven't. Too long didn't watch is that I really like the historical accuracy that the series is bringing us so far in terms of basically every aspect of it: the combat, the armor, weapons, the lifestyle, the the depictions of the Vikings, the Norse people. And I also do like that they are referencing some historical people as well. So potentially we are going to get a story that's intertwined with actual history, right? And that is always something that I really love. Beyond that, through the conflict, or the main conflict last episode is regards to a runaway slave. Right now, I'm still wondering whether or not this is going to be part of a bigger overall plot, like a spark that eventually ignites into a flame, and also whether or not this has anything to do with the adoption of Christianity and these kinds of religious conflicts. Although from what I've read from some of you guys' responses, it seems to be more of sort of like moral differences and whatnot. Which again, they could very well do it that way and not bring religion to it. I just feel like it would be more fun this way, especially considering the historical parallels that we have, again, with the aspect of religion and the Norse within this time period. But in any case, let's just get into the episode and see what's going to happen. Alright, I skipped the intro and the opening song, so let's just begin here in 3, 2, 1, play. Northern England, Eredom of Northumbria, Viking space. Is that so? I actually didn't know that. The Vikings are actually pretty well groomed, all things considered. Ooh. Sneak attack. Really? An entire... How'd that Arnold Schwarzenegger quote go again? Crush your enemies and hear the lamentations of their women? Something like that? I can't do Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonations. Sword. Okay, so is this... Oh. Nice. Yeah, Vikings like to play a lot of war games and what, or at least fighting games. Foxy. Oh. Yeah, it's a common conception that all Norse, all Vikings believed in this concept of Valhalla and glorious battle and whatnot. But as far as I know, actually isn't a complete there isn't conclusive evidence to say that all Vikings, all Norse, believed in this same concept of the gods, of Valhalla, of this kind of stuff. There we go, Christianity. Meat is different from wine. Oh. Okay. Okay, is this... Okay. Where's the troll? Okay, so this goes into my other theory last episode that maybe Thor's deserted the battlefield before? In search of a better life. Yeah, this is the same guy who fought alongside him. It's probably a commander of some sort. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's Swain Forkbeer that I was talking about. He's the current king of Denmark and Norway. Sigvaldi. What did I say? Captain. I'm not really quite sure about the hierarchical structure of Viking war parties. $15 years ago. Oh yeah, that's correct. Why though? It's been 15 years, you're not looking for this dude, and now you need him? You haven't even forgotten about him? He's probably gonna use it as threat. Yeah.
聞いたか、戦だぞ。すっげえ。俺初めてだよ。わざわざ海越えてトールズさんを誘いに来たんだぜ、あいつら。すげえよ、お前の親父さんは。でもよ、俺ら連れてってもらえるかな。おめえは無理だな。弱えもん。んだよ、それ。やっぱ強くねえとダメか。まあ、その点俺は大丈夫だな。お前ら、人を切ったことねえだろ。そういう経験があるか。
And you have?
私もね、子供の使いじゃないんですよ。あなたがこたびの戦に加わらぬとおっしゃるなら、私は使命を果たせぬし、我が狩猟の面目も潰れる。
Yep, he's taking the village hostage,
手ぶらでは帰れません。
forcing for his hand.
お分かりでしょう。ヨウム戦士だ。エンドランドの港町
Yomsburg.
に基地を持つ軍団だ。トールズが昔ヨウムの戦士だったとはな。
強いんすか？
強い。あまりに強くてベンドランド王などは彼らから税金を取れないでいるほどさ。北海最強を自負する軍団だ。撤収！船体船に戻れ！撤収！
何今の感じ悪いな。
Alright.
だな、あれ。聞かれよ村の衆。私はヨウム戦士団の不老機だ。主命により勇者ホールズ・スノーレソンに発声を頼むためこの地へ参った。
Snorrison?
ホールズ殿は我が狩猟の求めに応じられ軍船一隻の提供を約束なされた。あれと思わん者はホールズ殿と共にヨムスボルグへ参られよ。いやトールズ殿、いずれ戦場で会いましょう。
Is Taurus actually going to respond? Or is he just going to... He probably can't ignore it. Force is like, I don't want any of this shit. 嫌になった。 His wife doesn't know?
殺されるのも。だから逃げたんだ。戦場から。
Yep.
死んだようにうまく見せかけたつもりだったんだがな。だったらもう一度。逃げればこの村が俺の代わりに報復される。ヨウムの掟は脱走者を許さない。
But they let you off the hook for 15 years. So my question is, did they know he was alive for these 15 years? Because that actually has a lot of difference in the outcome. Really? That kid's gonna be one of the first to die, isn't he? broken.
一月の間添え木をしておいて
Wow.
まあなあ、トールズ。
トルフィンがやったんだよ。あいつ最近ムカつくんだ。手加減しねえし、もう絶対仲間に入れてやんね
本当かうちの子がそれはすまなかったよく言って聞かせる
気にすんなよ。子供同士のことだ。でもまだ6つだろ。4つ5つ上の
It's only 6?
大したもんだよ。
Oh, okay.
戦士になるぜあの子は。やっぱりあんたの血だよトールズ。 うっひょー、これ一式くれんのやつい。
Oh, full mail.
大からの家宝の武具で存分に戦ってこい。あれおお、かっけえぞあれ。俺のも見てくれ。馬の首を一撃で落としたっつ名品だぜ。でけえな。獲物ったら槍だよ。なんなら
I still feel like the axe heads are a little bit too.
え。もうあんたって子は何でもかんでも放りっぱなしにすんなよなって。こら聞いてんの？片付けないと捨てちゃうよ。いいの？ なのよ。返して。
What are you trying to do?
武器はどこ？あ、武器？僕には武器が必要なんだ。武器があれば。あんたさては戦士になって父上の船に乗せてもらっちゃおうとか考えてる？言っとくけどね、無駄な努力よ。あんたみたいなちびっこが。
Yeah, I have a feeling somebody's gonna get a good whooping in a while. Okay. Not quite. Yep. He's in for it.
何？どうしたの？
剣が欲しいかトルフィン剣は人を殺す道具だお前は誰を殺すつもりなんだ
敵。
お前の敵は誰なんだ
ハーフ団とか。
よく聞けトルフィンお前に敵などいない誰にも敵などいないんだ傷つけて良いものなどどこにもいない
おかしいよそんなの。だって父上は明日戦に行くんでしょ。敵を殺しに行くんでしょ。子供じゃない。父上は嘘を言ってる。僕にだってわかる。
トルフィン
お、トルフィン付き合い危ねえって。
出るか
はい。
あの子を頼む
Mm. Is he going to secretly get on the ship or something? Or is he going to keep on I mean, there are so many death flags being raised here. I think it's fairly obvious that not Thorfinn, Thor's, the father, he's probably not going to survive this war. And like I said, you know, the Alright, there's this Askla. Yeah, they're two okay. Now that is interesting. They are going to depict this sort of religious divide. Hmm? And there we go. Yep, he's not coming back to this alive. Alright, but there were some other interesting things being talked about this episode, so I'll see you guys in a second. Alrighty, so pretty much bye-bye Thors, right? So, as it turns out, he did indeed desert the army, desert his fellow Joms Vikings, and from reading up on the Joms Vikings, since I originally didn't know about this particular group of people, it seems that they are not the type of organization to easily forgive someone running away from the battle or, you know, abandoning his comrade in arms, right? So, you know, originally I was thinking that maybe they were going to find him and then send him on sort of like a suicide mission, so he would still die on the battlefield or whatnot. It's just that he has to die there, a sort of repentance for his sins or guilts, or his crimes against the Joms Vikings, if you will. But looking at it here, it might even be just a personal vendetta by Floki. So perhaps he feels threatened by the return of Force because he currently holds his position or something like that. I don't know. To be honest, I don't really care that much. He's pretty much a dead man walking. I'm much more interested in all the different characters and the historical context that we are currently at right now. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about the religious side of things, because that's also what originally I was thinking might play a big part, judging from last episode, in regards to slavery, right? So as it turns out, that's not the case. Forrest is just simply a man who has better morals, or something like that, I guess. But I feel like it's still kind of interesting and important to talk about religion within the context of this episode, and especially how it affected things leading up to this moment in time. So last episode I already talked about the future of the Vikings and the relationship with Christianity. How, in a way, Christianity basically forced the Viking culture to die out, both the raiding parts as well as their own system of beliefs and so on and so forth, right? Here, however, how should I put it? So within the time period that we are in, it doesn't seem that religion is going to factor in too much into the events that's going to happen, at least within the context of this anime, since Thorfinn is about 5 years old right now, right? So probably there's nothing else that important that has to do with religion that's going to happen with this time period, but we do need to consider religion when we're talking about the events leading up to this current point in time, especially with King Sweyn, right? Sweyn Forkbeard, which again I mentioned last episode should be the current ruler of of the Scandinavian countries, and that is indeed the case here. It's been confirmed. So, to talk about him, we need to talk about his predecessors, which include his father, King Harald Bluetooth of Denmark, as well as King Olaf I of Norway, right? Now, these two have something in common. Well, they have a few things in common. First of all, they're both sort of like the first prospective kings of their countries. Before that, all the kingdoms there weren't really unified, so they were both the first to sort of unify all the different kingdoms within a certain country, or I guess in that area you can't really call it a country, a region, or whatnot. But the second thing is that they were actually both very staunch supporters of Christianity, and in fact they were sort of the driving force of bringing Christianity to their respective people. King Harald Bluetooth in Denmark and King Olaf in Norway. So, and first of all, we need to talk about why they want to do this, right? So, really, essentially, it boils down to especially for Denmark, if you will, they're right next to the German countries, Germanic states, if you will, and at that time, there is this country called the Holy Roman Empire, right? And of course, the Holy in the Holy Roman Empire is referring to Catholicism, right? So, anyways, the Scandinavian people, the Vikings, the Norse, they need allies, right? And they definitely don't want to be fighting such a big force, such a big power. So, what better way to do it than to just convert to Christianity and say, hey, don't fight us, we're brothers in faith, right? And not to mention that they were incentivized to do so because, well, they would be rewarded for this by both the nobles of the Franks, the Holy Roman Empire, maybe even the Pope himself, and, well, hey, it's free money, right? Not to mention that it doesn't really conflict with their original beliefs because, Old Norse religion, Norse mythology, is essentially a polytheistic religion. That means that there's lots and lots of gods within there, right? You got Thor, Odin, Loki, all that good jazz. So you say, hey, this is our religion. And there's this god named God or Jesus Christ, and they'll be like, okay, fine, you can come and join the family, right? So what's two more gods to add to the list, right? So they basically had this method of using conversion as a sort of solidifying their own power and gaining riches as well. Now, however, they went about this, even though they're technically compatible in this kind of way, Christianity practitioners of it really, they need, they try to convert you into, okay, this is a monotheistic religion, right? There's only one God, and that is God, right? And then there's also Jesus Christ, and so on and so forth, right? So you need to renounce all your other Norse pagan beliefs and your pagan rituals and whatnot. So some people did take offense to it, and they did not want to convert to Christianity. Now, Harald Bluetooth did things in a sort of more in a more softer way, whereas King Olaf did a more hard approach, and he forcefully converted people. Now, obviously, that's going to piss off a lot of different people, right? And here, I feel like it's also important to mention that the concept of kings within the Scandinavian countries aren't really the same as we would think of when we think of the Franks or the Holy Roman Empire or so on and so forth, right? Like I said, these two kings were basically the first respective kings that unified their respective countries, nation states, regions. And in fact, for Scandinavian culture, really, the king was not someone particularly special. He was just simply the most able warrior or most able to bring everybody together or whatnot. He didn't have any, he wasn't holy in any way, right? So they actually relied a lot on their jarls, the other members of high nobility to consolidate their powers. And so you can, in this sense, so let's talk about Harold Bluetooth first, right? Because he's the direct father of Sweyn Forkbeard. So Sweyn Forkbeard eventually led, he started an uprising, started a rebellion, and it's not. I haven't, because this is not exactly the part of history that I am very familiar with, but I'm sure that there's going to be lots of jarls or other men or whatnot disgruntled with Harold Bluetooth and his way of doing things, and his persistence in trying to convert them to Christianity, that would make them follow Sweyn instead, right? So this is part of how Sweyn got big his force, and so eventually overthrowing his father, Harold Bluetooth. And the same thing goes for King Olaf in Norway as well. Because of his insistence on forcibly converting people to Christianity, he pissed off a lot of people, including some neighboring kings and queens as well. Well, they formed an alliance together with Sweyn Forkbeard, which eventually led to the Battle of Solder. Battle of Solder, right? And that is the battle in which the Allied forces, consisting of Sweyn Forkbeard and various other people, defeated King Olaf. And so, with that battle, eventually King Sweyn Forkbeard became the unified king of the Scandinavian countries, right? There's some other stuff that happened after that. I'm not going to go into the details, but eventually he became the king of Scandinavia, or I guess they didn't really have that concept. He was basically the king of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. Um, and then also another interesting thing here is that it also ties in with one of his major military forces, and that is the Jomsvikings, right? So, like I said, I didn't really know of the Jomsvikings, so I had to look this one up. So apparently, they are a elite mercenary Viking force, right? And they are very disciplined. They follow a strict, they follow strict rules of living. It's really like Spartans in a certain type of way, or maybe similar to the the knightly orders that we later on know, such as the Knights Templar and those kind of things, right? So they have very strict rules, such as not fleeing, such as never fighting among themselves, and then practicing discipline. I believe they can't even take wives and have children or whatnot. So they're basically this super elite fighting force, right? However, they are also a very very pagan mercenary group. So again, from the limited time that I had to read up on them, it doesn't seem like this is something that completely defines them. Like, they're not completely anti-Christianity, anti-Catholic, Catholicism, but I'm sure that them being a pagan group helps them in their alliance with Sweyn Forkbeard, right? So basically, that's what this whole thing is. And so we can know that leading up to this date, everything that happened in regards to how Sweyn Forkbeard consolidated his power. So as of right now, he is the most powerful person in the Scandinavian countries, right? He is the king of Scandinavia, even if it doesn't exist, theoretically. But anyways, so since he already unified these three countries, what's next, right? Well, what's next is England. So the sort of battle or massacre, if you will, at the beginning of this episode is what is known in history as the St. Brice's Day massacre. Brice, whatever. So things more or less happened as the episode described it. They basically, the English people, they went there into what is it, Danes? Well, basically they went to that village and massacred people, and supposedly the sister of Sweyn Forkbeard was also there as well. So whether that is true or not, we don't really know, right? It could be sort of like a personal revenge thing or whatnot that Sweyn Forkbeard uses to invade England, but really more than likely this is just sort of like an excuse, right? A casus belli. Casus belli, I kind of forgot how. Basically, the sort of right to go to war, right? So again, going back to what I said before, just because you're the king doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want. Their authority doesn't really work that way. However, if you say instead that look at these wretched Englishmen, they killed my sister, they killed our countrymen. We need to get revenge. We need to go invade their country. That'd be much easier to rile up public support, both from the public and also from the other elites as well, the other jarls, the other nobles. And so that is an important thing in terms of progressing this story forward, right? So now they are preparing for war and preparing for the invasion of England. This will eventually culminate into King Sweyn Forkbeard almost unifying and conquering the entirety of England, but not quite. As I said last episode, the person who did actually succeed in doing this would be his son, Canute the Great. But we'll do that when we get there, right? That's still a ways off. But that is basically the current historical context that we are in right now. So, okay, whew. That was a long, winding explanation. Hopefully I didn't fumble over things too much and you guys were able to get a clear understanding of the current political situation, you know, and what is going on in this current world right now. So yeah. What else? You know, I guess maybe we should talk about Thorfinn a little bit, but honestly I don't really want to because he's acting like a spoiled brat this episode, so I don't want to talk about him. And not to mention, I'm not even sure if there's going to be a time skip coming up or something, because like I said, it seems pretty obvious that Thors is going to die here. If not directly due to this, you know, assassination plot, then probably on the battlefield. Like, I'm 99.99% sure he's not going back to Iceland alive, right? So that is that. But Thorfinn right now is only 5 years old, so that is way too young to do anything. So potentially there's going to be a time skip coming up, question mark, but we'll see. And also, how does the legend of Thorfinn the Explorer tie into the current invasion of England? That's also something that I'm really curious about. But like I said, it's useless to speculate on that part right now. So hopefully in the next few episodes, we will get to see some actual battle between the Vikings and the English. I don't believe that there's any particular very famous battle that happened during that period of time, so we'll have to make do with what we have. So anyways, that's episode 2 of Vinland Saga. Stay tuned for episode 3. I will try to get it out before episode 4 drops later this weekend. So don't go anywhere, stay tuned. Bye bye.